Good evening, TNT family. We run a little late tonight. We're doing a test run with some extra
Now going to call you.
equipment here. So we on Yellow Decor. Mr. Suman Singh is with us, and Mr. Singh, welcome back to Yellow is the Code on UNC USA. We saw that there was plans to open the campus in Debe in August, and I mean, I know you would be happy for that. Seeing that is taking place, I know I am happy that we are opening that campus after 10 years of spite, and inconvenience to our citizens of the country. So, Mr. Singer, I would like to get your input on that reopening of the campus.
Yes, but there were other news over the weekend. I'll touch that in a bit, Gary. But I think this weekend showed how oh shoot, how easy it is or how difficult it was for the past government to mobilize the people and mobilize resources in trying to, you know, minimize the flooding that has occurred over the weekend. And it still, it just shows political will to get things done. And, you are left with the idea that was the past government being spiteful to people? Because as I said, the floods don't discriminate, whether you're PNM, UNC, or whatever. When you're living in a society, the floods don't spare you know. So it has to be nothing but spite. It also exhibited, uh, in the bigger scheme of things, more so about interministerial coordination. And that was good to see because I think if you work collectively, you will not duplicate, efforts for the same cause. So that was an important aspect of seeing coordination among the various ministries, and I'm sure a lot of the other state-run organizations and community groups and what have you, all in an effort to, you know, solve what's going on here. 10 years of neglect of cleaning and the waterways and dredging the rivers and what have you. But for me, the star news over the past 2, 3 days has been the projected opening of the South UV campus at Debe. Now, that is something, again, what comes back to spite because campus that was almost completed and to have teens and teenagers being suffered from the Southland who had no other choice but to travel up to the north, pay rental for the apartments, inconvenience the parents and so on to come every weekend to visit and do groceries, in some cases bring food you know, and do laundry and so on for the children who were from the southern areas like Cedros, Point Fortin, Siparia, Palo Seco, Pinal, Davie, Moruga, and the Southland on the whole. Here is it with this announcement. At least they have, or they can make use of the same availability of training by reaching to their new campus in Davie rather than having to face the trek with all the traffic and so on up to St. Augustine. So I think this augurs well. And again, it comes back to my central point. something was there and it was not utilized because of sheer spite for the public and the public education. Just as Discover Children's Hospital gain out of sheer spite for the benefit of children and mothers. How heartless can a government be towards its own people? I'm saying this is not only UNC supporters will be the beneficiary of these things. Everybody benefits. Everybody benefits. Once you meet the criteria for the entrance criteria to the university, whether it's in north or south, you will get in. Same thing for the children's hospital. So I think the past regime was very, very, very spiteful. And, you know, I see this spite being removed with this new UNC government. So it is indeed some good news amidst all the gloomy news we have had. But this has generally overtaken, whatever gloom there may be over the weekend. And this really, gives us hope. Definitely gives us hope as far as higher education goes. So I not too clear because I read there seems to be a little conflict in the news reporting. So unless they got that clearly spelled out, I don't know if it's the medical programs will also be offered in South. I know the legal program is one of the things guarded, the humanities as well, and Roy Tech. So I guess in the coming days we'll know for sure because one news clip is saying something else and another is, a different scenario. So I guess clarity needs to be the order of the day. So I don't know, Gary, what other things they may be on the
Well,
pipeline.
we're still dealing with the flood situation, and I'm just looking here at the news, and I'm seeing, Rio Claro reporting they're saying that 2 feet of water in their area. I'm seeing how people being out there, being very hands-on, assisting our citizens. That's good to see that our government is out there in full force,
Yes,
dealing with the flood situation. And, we're looking forward to seeing that everyone is taken care of, which we show. I mean, we're seeing and all sort of help coming towards our people in a more effective, efficient way, which was long overdue. We didn't see this under the previous government, for the last 10 years with the amount of chaos that we saw.
I
So,
don't.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't think there was any sort of considered effort to either devise a planning strategy for dealing with floods. It just treated it as an ad hoc situation. Okay, yes, flood in Woodland. When the flood subsides, then we can come and assess. That's the story you get year in, year out. When the flood subsides, then the officers can come in to assess the situation. And people's homes in that area had been flooded more than 3 times for the year. So imagine from the time you start to get your feet or your household in order, bam, you get hit again with the next flood. And then again, trying to pull your lives together, you get it hit for the third time. I mean, it's sheer, these people has sheer
Dr. Rambo,
resilience.
Dr. Rambo, you hear us? I see Dr. Rambo just came in.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
hearing you. I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah,
it
so we
is.
ran a little late. Just doing I paid for some additional stuff, so we streaming both on Facebook and YouTube now.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
we're just checking in, do a little test run here and see, how it's working out, and get some feedback from you guys too. We saw the big campus is planned to open in August, Dr. Rambo.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would feel good about that. And
That is, yes, next to me. Yes, you know, for 10 years I've been driving past that place, and every time I see it, I get so annoyed. Oh my God, it's so long. Jeez.
And I was just mentioning that the Cuba Children's Hospital, and you begin to think and get the feeling is if it was just sheer spite for these
I
things
don't
to be
know.
left abandoned.
Really,
But
really.
almost fully completed,
Hmm.
these things. And those are two, what should I say, priority areas. But in Trinidad now, I can tell you, all areas are priority areas. It doesn't have one ministry or government department that is not broken. The whole system is broken. And the same way that we can think of as the economic collapse is the same way we can think of these services and so on that has collapsed. You name it, man. It's all over. So I think what this government has to do over time is to put in some new structures, put in some new policies, acquire the right human resources, upgrade the physical infrastructure, and of course, bring good governance back again. These 5 things needs to be done because it just can't continue with a broken, dilapidated system. And once you have the same people doing things the same way, you know what the result is going to be. Same old results again. No efficiency, very little productivity, and yes, we're churning along, churning along. So one thing we didn't mention is that I saw they got a CAF, Latin American loan, the government, for I think it's 250 million US for education and roads development, and that was, something heartening because in 10 days' time you were able to hit the international funding or the international lending agencies to get some funding for development works. And that was encouraging news for the people who is trying to get some money to do the groundwork to build up back the development for the island. So along with the Davie campus, and along with the mass mobilization of people for the flooding, together with a lot of interministerial coordination, I think it was all pluses. I think over the past 4 or 5 days, we see a lot more pluses happening, and that augurs well. I think the powers that we are working.
Dr. Rambo, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm there. I'm listening.
You can jump in now if you're ready.
Yeah. No. I mean, I agree. I agree with Mr. Singh. It's we are just about 2 weeks. 2.5, and already there, the ministers are on the ground doing some yeoman's work outside. So I think that the country is pretty anxious. They're eager, and I'm positive that the guys have the right mindset. I think this time wrong, we don't have much money, so it's gonna be the test will be now is good management and leadership. It's when you have a lot of money, is not a problem. Things go, and might fall by the wayside, and you might just pass on it. But once you have limited money, limited funds, and access to funds, you're gonna have to tighten your belts, and you're gonna have to manage properly and cut here and invest wisely, and so that is where the tests will come in. I think this is where we're gonna show the difference. It's always, to me, it's always been like that. The PNM has actually
Right?
stayed in power
So
for
just saying
quite
now
a
the
while.
water level
Yeah. And then quite a while they stay in power, and then after they lose the election, and then all of a sudden another party comes in and they have to, mend and build back. And, that's what happened with NAR, and this time it's going to be very, very hard. It's going to be hard. So leadership and strategy is going to be very important going forward. And all that Mr. Singh said, I mean, I endorse that.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult job on it's going to be. I was saying the journey will definitely be difficult, and one wonders, over the next 5 years, when come 2030, and you may have to make some tough decisions and tough calls. And if that doesn't jive with the population, you can quickly become an unpopular party for doing the right or making the right decisions, as they had to do in 1986. So one wonders how or what the expectations are. What is the time frame for delivery? And everything is depending upon that. And the amount of delivery that needs to be done is not, you just kind of check it in your fingers, as you have to check it with your toes as well. Because you just can't allow the country to go, to linger on. It's it's just meandering along. That's not the correct word given what the flooding situation. Should not use meandering because it might be connoting some more floods. But it's not the right feeling, when you get that sense that hard decisions have to be made, and if the population doesn't understand, or they don't understand the rationale for making those decisions, as I said, quickly, you can lose momentum and people can shift their loyalty.
No, I see them making a big deal about the citizens who are going to be deported into Trinidad.
The 21 of them?
Yeah. And I mean, some people are acting like these are hard criminals that were committing major crime in Trinidad. I mean, this could be just people came and took a little chance to make a little few dollars to help support their family and their situation. And why are we making it such a big deal as to the fact that these are hardened criminals who've been committing major crimes in the United States? It's just people who have overstayed their time, took a little chance possibly, to make a few dollars for their family and better their situation. They're not hardened criminals, per se. So I think, we like to, get dramatic about some things that are not necessary. They are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. We don't know the details behind their deportation, but at the same time, I don't see them as absolutely necessarily posing any security threat to anybody. And we shouldn't blow that out of proportion. We should be focusing on the people who really pose the threat in the country.
Yes.
What's your take on that, gentlemen?
I don't think that is a serious problem. That is any country. It's not only the U.S. If you have been found wanting in the U.S. for certain, negligent activities against the laws of the land, I think they are within their rights to do what they are doing. In the same way, if they are illegal citizens in Trinidad who are there and, who may be held or may have committed an offense or offenses, it's a duty of them to get rid of them from the island. So to say that the U.S. is doing that because of spite is not true, because they've done it to all countries in this past incarnation, especially since Trump has come on.
Well, no, I mean, I don't agree with quite a bit of how he's handling things, but as we said, the fact is that the people who are residing in Trinidad acting like these people are hardened, dangerous criminals, just like they treated the people who was coming back home during the COVID, like they were so infectious, which
Yeah.
wasn't the case. But getting all dramatic about some citizens who overstayed their time in another country, just like any one of you would have done, trying to make an extra living, a few dollars for your family, should not be treated in such a way. That is my point of view. In the fact that they're making a big deal out of nothing.
Well, I tell you what, my son and I, we got stuck in Trinidad for over 18 months, and he just went home for his spring break holidays, 5 days of holidays, and then we couldn't come out. There were no flights again. They stopped all entry into the island. So I had to stay home for 18 months in Trinidad. I went in March 2020, and I came back here in October 2021.
Yeah, but like I said, this is a big deal. Now I see that Dr. Munilar met with the U.S. Embassy in discussion of energy talks, and let's see how that rolls out. I mean, I'm sure that things is going to mobilize as soon as they sort out these logistics and issues.
Yes, I saw the ministers in the Ministry of Trade, Investment, and Tourism meeting with the American Chamber as well.
Yeah. Neil did get back to me. He said he's going to be talking to you also
today.
Yeah, he messaged me last night. He said he's going to reach out. He's going to be talking to you.
Okay, great. It's 10 o'clock now, so I don't.
No, not tonight. Not tonight.
Oh,
he said
tonight.
he's going to be talking to you soon. He has a lot going on, and we all understand that. Yeah.
That's as I put in my post this morning. These ministers, and I think I mentioned it to Dr. Ramup as well, and you may have seen my comments, is that now is not a good time to send anything, because all the ministers and their relevant ministries are so tied up with what's happening at this point in time. But things can get lost in the emails and paper shuffle and what have you. So
right.
Let's see if things clear out over the next 3-4 days.
Yeah.
But then again, I saw they're expecting some bad weather again on Thursday. So we don't know when.
Well, it's the beginning of the rainy season, so.
Yeah, the 29th is the cutoff date, the end of the dry
Well,
season.
The weather does not operate according to man's calendar.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely.
God has his own calendar and his own process.
And then you see some tropical depressions forming off the western coast of Africa. So that is bringing some insult to injury again.
But not only that, when a weatherman makes a forecast, the air pressure could change and cause that forecast to change direction, and you blame the weatherman and say the weatherman doesn't have control of the air pressure.
It's the most difficult job because they relying on the technology and
it's a guesstimate
models. They rely on a lot of algorithms and models. And I mean, the US thinks they're the most sophisticated country coming to that, and still they can predict a hurricane path, even when it reaches that close to Jamaica. Or
it could shift the air pressure.
Where in the east coast of Florida it's going to hit. This last year was so horrible that instead of hitting the east coast of Florida, it came on the western peninsula and hit Pensacola and these places on the border with Georgia. So it's an unpredictable science,
The
barometric pressure changes, the wind direction changes, the eye changes from moving fast to moving slow, and when it moves slow, it just builds up more, pressure, as they say, barometric pressure, which means the intensity has increased or is increasing. You don't know which direction it's going to go, basically. And in the, you have models here. They have the European models as well that have their own sets of prediction to, I guess, all these different parameters and data in their analysis. So, weather patterns are something out of man's hands, and we could only warn people of impending or devastating situations. But as far that level of unpredictability, I think, has been there and will be there for a long while again. Even even
you
though
can't
weather,
really pin
yeah,
this down directly.
no, even though weather forecasting, I don't know if you know that, but weather forecasting and air travel and all these things are combined, and they rely on the most sophisticated computers available. The most sophisticated computers available. That is what they use. So if your best cannot do it, think about it in the long run. What's going to happen? We just don't know.
I've seen here we have to watch the print media in Trinidad, and they're trying to put a twist on what is actually the plan of this government, and they're looking to cause fear and panic, in the country, that we're going to cut this and cut that. And I mean, we have to sort out what funds we have and what we can maintain at this point. The way they're trying to spin things, you really have to pay attention to what they're trying to do. I've seen here, they jumping the gun on every aspect here with the Ministry of Sports and Youth Development,
Yes.
because he's cleaning house, he's cutting the waste. So, they're trying to make it look like these programs will not be operational. But you watch and see, everything is going to be sorted out down the road.
Even the WASA issue there with the 34 managers is still making the rounds of news. A lot of them are saying that is not sustainable. It's by taking people out of employment, but see what you terminated, or you hope to terminate 34 employees, but you with that you're saving $30 million, and you could help maintain your employment ratio at the lower level. I mean, you're looking at 5,000 or 6,000 people employed at the lower level who can still be employed at WASA. So do you measure 34 against 6,000? What is the cost-benefit ratio of that? Is that spreading the money around for more people to enjoy whatever little they can enjoy, rather than give it to just 34 households? Is how you weigh these things up.
Let's see how things play out. Barry has confirmed that there's not going to be any raise in the electricity rate, and giving them the time to sort out things again, they will be able to rectify, all that.
And I also heard people starting to get water who was not getting.
Yeah, if you think about it, let them explain that, how the people are getting water, and yet, the former minister wants to come and talk about Barry, and the news can print blows for Barry, and it is more or less the opposite, where there's blows for Marvin Gonzalez.
Yes, and they try to spin it. He was saying, the reason why
they're not covering the fact that people are getting water.
South and Central, why they had to shut off water, is because of the aging of the lines. So, okay, because of the aging of the lines, they couldn't run the full pressure. That may be true to an extent, but whose fault is that? How many lines, let's say, how many new lines over the 10 years that you have been replaced? If you identify that as the problem, right? How many new lines have you replaced? So he may be right. He may be right in saying that the old lines, but the old lines all over the country, not only in South and Central, the old lines all over. But the question remains, what did he do about it? How many lines did you replace? So it just shows up their own shortcomings, These guys know that they have the press behind them, so they will always feel as a second layer of defense. And as I always say, there is no investigative reporting. There is just reporting, and no investigative reporting. Just run-of-the-mill reporting. Sometimes you don't know how true or how factual that reporting is. So I always say you believe what you want to believe.
Okay, gentlemen, Dr. Ramo, you have anything to add at this point so we can wrap up? I think he left. Dr. Rambo, are you still there? Yeah. So anyway, gentlemen.
Yes. I just stepped out to come in. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, sorry
okay.
about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, I had we have a little bit of disturbance in the outside there. I just wanted to check and see what it was, but it was just some dogs barking.
You do have to do that, yeah.
Yeah.
The crime spree is still on.
Yeah. The one of the things that I was before we had left in 2017 from ODPM, we had done a workshop in which we had brought the minister at the time, the PNM minister, and we brought various agencies such as when we had all these Venezuelans coming in, and we developed a policy based on a United Nations meeting that we had with respect to migration and transmigration and all of these things. And that was in 2017, and before a lot of movement took place. And we had forecasted increase in movement, and we also had a very good discussion in Geneva with respect to how governments were going to change and what was going to happen in like in this age, this fourth industrial age, where we're seeing the effects of those changes now, like with Trump sending back a lot of these people into countries. So the thing is that even then we had a plan, and we had suggested that because of persons coming back in the country, either citizens or refugees, as it were, that there is a specific policy that the government had to adopt with how we want to treat with our citizens and also non-nationals, you see. And therefore our Ministry of Foreign Affairs in association with Ministry of National Security, we had a sort of document which sort of outlined some of the things that the government could have done, to facilitate the entry and to deal with these persons. So unfortunately, our government took over just a few weeks ago. So on the question of the returning citizens, I mean, it's clear that it's our citizens, and each case has to be treated on its own merit, in the sense that if there was a crime committed and the person has been deported and the person is a criminal and the person has been convicted of a crime, then they should be doing time over there, and then they transport, and like what happens in any sort of movement of persons from one country to the other. And if other persons have other issues, well, I mean, they are citizens, and we need to welcome them back into the country.
Yeah, but when I'm saying there has to be a difference in how you treat people who just went and overstayed their time compared to a person who was running around wreaking havoc in America and causing major crime.
Correct. I mean, listen, I remember sitting in Geneva, and we were invited to a meeting in which we were looking at what was happening, and this was before all of these things happened, and this was in 2015, right? And we were 2014, sorry, and we were looking at how populations were moving across the globe, and it was amazing that we were able to use models to determine what was going to happen in Europe, and it happened. What was going to happen in Canada, and it's happening right now. With respect to immigrants coming in, look at what is happening into the United States. So um, it is going to be. I think I wrote an article today. I don't know. It is one of the major risks going forward in terms of the geopolitics, as well as the problem that we're having with with these political polarization, where people are now getting more nationalistic, and they're coming back into their country, and they're beginning to not like immigrants, so to speak, and that is obviously causing problems, in Europe, in England for sure, in the UK, sorry, and what's happening in even in Canada. So it's going to be an interesting 5 years, in terms of um, many areas of risk. There was a global assessment risk report by the World Economic Forum. Every year they publish this global assessment. Well, not every year, but every so often when they analyze the risks. I think it's over 3 years. I think it was, remember, before. And it was interesting that what are some of the major risks that are going to be facing our country in the next few years. And one of them we're seeing right now on the ground, flooding. So it's not as though, you know like, I mean, what I'm amazed at is that in 10 years a government has all of these technocrats, all of these persons who actually are supposed to be the subject matter experts in all the ministries and all the various ministries. They must have known about the global reports. They must have known about the global risk reports, which will affect countries. And one of the things that they must have seen in the last since January was what Trump was going to do. I mean, you must have seen what Trump was saying that he was going to do during the elections. So it's amazing that there were no policies to accept these immigrants when these our nationals and citizens when they come back. I mean, it's almost as if, I don't understand. I mean, I just can't understand how, you know a government could be a government of a country, and these things, nobody sat on a table and say, look, hey guys, I mean, what are the threats? Do a threat analysis. What is happening to a country in the global space, and how can things out there affect us? We know economics for one, but it's not just economics; it's other things. And I'm amazed that no policy has been, from the technocrats at least. I mean, okay, I can understand the ministers have political issues and whatever, and they maybe don't like UNC, and they don't like this, and they don't like that, and they don't like Kamala and whatever. But the point about it is that in those ministries, there are permanent secretaries, there are divisional heads, there are persons who get reports from the people who they send to do courses, and I mean, there are subject matter experts in each one of those ministries. And I'm amazed that, like in the ministry itself, they don't have any knowledge, or at least, I mean, we don't know. I mean, I'm just talking because I'm not in the ministry, but maybe they have, and maybe we're not hearing about it, but maybe they have these things. I mean, look at the article I wrote today. The point is that I am positive that those five things that you could do to mitigate flooding, right? Five of those most published in the World Economic Forum, discussed all over the world. I've seen this with my own very own eyes. When I was in Olympic, and we went to Japan, we saw almost all of these except the AI tools. And it's amazing that the ministry has these technocrats. They have these people. They would know about these things. So maybe they do, and maybe when the ministers get the little note from us and say, well, these are some of the things, they will already have discussed that with their people, and they would have said, oh, we already have that, we know about houses that could float, and we know about this and that and that and that, and we know about rainwater harvesting. The Water Resource Agency does that. They have tools and products. And I remember when this guy from what was the minister in public utilities, Ganga, right? Remember when Ganga Singh was minister? I remember going to an event that they had when I was in ODPM, and they had quite a lot of advanced programs on rainwater harvesting, right? Tools that could have not just bring fresh water and potable water to households, but also reduce flooding. And I mean, I for sure was very interested in what they had to offer. And that was in 20, that was, I mean, what, 2011, 2012, 2013 when Gang Singh was minister, and over 10 years, and I have not seen anything at all in the communities in this regard. So I don't
Nothing
know.
done. I mean, you could build portable systems to help with the rainwater harvesting and how to say the purifying of it. You
Yeah.
know,
And then they have this
for home
archaic
use.
law. They had this archaic law, Gary. Remember, all the water belongs to Wassa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, somebody tell
That
Wassa to
was
come
the
pick up the
most
flow water from the
stupid
place.
piece of legislation you could find.
No, but they can't stop you from collecting rainwater that falling on your roof, or they could stop you to collecting that rainwater. That's a stupid law. If that exists, we need to do something about it. I mean, we all grew up with our family collecting rainwater because
Yes.
most didn't have pipe-borne water at the time when our grandparents and parents was younger. Up to now, people don't have pipe-borne water. So we should work out a system where we create these structure, to assist people in order to say in purifying the water. They just need a little help. I mean, people have their things in place where they're collecting water in a barrel or what they call it, a tank or whatever it is, from their
But
spouting, but they
I
never.
did I did suggest that when the budgets, hopefully this year when they do their budgets and whatever, they in the Ministry of Housing, and in association with the Ministry of Works and Transport, and of course local government, that at least 20 to 30% of the budget goes to retrofitting of homes that are at high risk for earthquakes, flooding, and as well as heavy winds, etc. And we added one in terms of rehabilitation, right, for diseases such as strokes and operations and palliative care for cancers and persons who have amputations and the old person. In fact, this whole Ministry of Social Services now should work very closely with the Ministry of Housing, and because the Ministry of Health has stated in their manifesto that we are going to be looking at home care as one of the tools that we can have easier access, right, to the healthcare system rather than having a elderly person leave Ikakas or Tuku or Galiota and come to a health center hours away, right, just to sit down and get a prescription. Sometimes they're half blind and they can't see, especially they're diabetic and hypertensive, and they have arthritis and they can't walk. And some of these people have to take taxis and sit down in a clinic, hear the name call, and then go and sit down, and a doctor comes in and he speaks to them for 5-10 minutes and then writes a prescription without even examining them, and then they go and collect the prescription and they go home. I mean, I sat in
Capture
clinics for years, and
5,750 gallons.
that's what happened. So, if home care could come, I mean, you have so many unemployed doctors, and you're churning out quite a lot of doctors again in every year, right? I mean, quite a lot of incentives could be put towards preventative health care, where doctors can actually be paid to go home. And what you can do now is have the supervisors, who are the older doctors, the DMOs, the medical officers of health, and you have a very expanded community care where each doctor is given like a zone, like a couple of streets and whatever. So it means, therefore, that you can actually bring healthcare to every single home, because with such a small country is not impractical. And again, we have a lot of funding issues that we could probably look at in terms of moving funds in that and trying to focus more on preventative medicine. So I personally feel it's something that could
Is what's
work
called
well
a
for
filter
population.
system. Up here, you have your gutter. So these are some copper gutters, a little bougie, but hey, it's
Yeah. So that's that's it. It's just it's an overall sort of looking at it through a different lens in terms of going forward. It's almost as everything is intermingled, for having a better country, and that is why I think the people centered approach is a very very commendable approach by the Prime Minister, and I think that is where we're going to be looking at where the benefits are. We have a growing elderly population now, and it means therefore that we need to bring the healthcare to the homes, and that means that they have to be living in dwellings that are um, that are capable of trying to prevent them from falling. I don't know if you guys know that the most the incidence of falls in the elderly is a leading cause of death and disability, right, in the world. Falls at home, falls at work. So falls is something that we have to be we must understand that it is where we spend a lot of money as a government and a people for people who fall and land up in hospital, have to have surgery, they stay in the wards, they have to have therapy, they don't go to work after they fall. So you have a lot of revenue loss, opportunity costs. So falls is a major problem all over the world.
Well, listen, we know that a lot of things are universal. Is how we manage it, right? Is how we handle things. Has to be the key issue dealing with issues like this. So let's see how the things are roll out.
Yeah. I see. The thing about it, we can't do it in 5 years. We can do a lot in 5 years, but we need at least 10 or more. And I'm hoping that the campaign starts now for 2020, 2030, 2035. So, I mean, Mr. Singh always says it. I saw it in the post a lot that we have to kind of almost have that public relations going now, and it has to be sustainable so that is so that when we do something, we have to measure the impact, make sure that there is a real impact that people can see qualitatively and quantitatively. Yeah, it's good to go out and show your face and take a picture and say that you in the flooding and get the backhoes to work and everything. That is important, highly important, and I'm not saying it's not, but what we are saying is that we did that for 5 years and we lost the election. um, so performance sometimes doesn't be told up. We might be doing well, but if we don't market what we're doing and we don't show the impact, right, people have a short memory in this place. I'm telling you, they forget, right. It's as almost as if they don't know how much things that the People's Partnership had done. Sometimes when the Prime Minister and during the elections, people list out all those things. You say, my God, oh my God, compared to what happened in the last 10 years, there was so much done, you know what I mean? But people forget. And when it comes down to elections, all you need is a few stupid things, and we're back to square one. And they close up everything that we have done, right? They close up the hospital you built in Couva, they close up the UV department in Davie, all these schools that, they have, with bush growing all over there. I mean, it's so pathetic, you know.
Gentlemen, I just loaded this video here. It was a rainwater filtration system. We could take a look.
Yeah, while we're looking at it, I'd like to comment on one thing again, Gary. My first statement this evening is that, as I was saying, when the UNC came into power just recently, after this election, the hot topics were crime and health. But as you can see, it's just about every single ministry is broken. You know, every ministry have to be restructured. They have to be realigned with the development objectives. You have to put in new structures and systems in place. You have to have new policies and, of course, new good governance. You cannot have the same people doing what they do all these years, because you're going to get the same short-handed results, and that is not development. So, and it's just for all aspects of government, not only health and crime. We thought it was only health and crime. Look at what this drainage issue is. Did anybody ever,
I mean, no, they do. I mean, a lot of things you might not be aware of, Mr. Singh, but the people on the ground there, like Khadija and them guys, were dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. So they were fully aware of what the problem was and where it needed to be done. That's why they could have hit the ground running. What was lacking is the resources to do it, the equipment to do it. I mean, and obviously the funding allocated to the various borough corporations. So our people didn't take government not knowing fully what we were dealing with or what we up against.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about it from that aspect. They're fully aware, but the ministries are broken. Take, for example, immigration. There's a problem with immigration. There's a problem with transport. There's a problem with just about every sector you can think about. That foreign policy, national security, the prisons. There are problems at everything, and we cannot have the same people. This is the point I'm trying to make and get across. You have the same people implementing the same policy, but how can you expect different results? So as I said, the structures has to be changed. The right HR personnel have to be sourced. The new policies have to be implemented, and of course the governance structure. They all have to be people-centered focus. The shift has to be along those lines.
Well, our administrators, which is the MPs and the ministers, will have to address those things and put those things
Yes,
in place.
correct. And I don't see how they're going to address it with the same workforce you have, and the same permanent secretaries you have, and the same technical persons you have, because these people have been there. And what were the results? Let's say, don't even go back 10 years, see for the past 5 years. What the results? The results were nil. And they had the resources. Where was the budgets for all these ministries? How come they are already expended after 7 months? So you see all these things when you add it all up.
Well, we have the roll out of our action with them, and if they fail to comply, or then it's up to the minister to chastise them and deal with it as times go along. We should not back down. We have a mandate from the people who wanted change. We didn't get elected to maintain the same status quo. We came there to overhaul things, and that is on the condition that we got elected for. So,
agreed. Yeah, I agree with that. But what I said, superficially, we were all thinking that, okay, just health and crime, but now we're seeing the magnitude of the entire brokenness of the entire system, and it will take a mammoth effort. As Dr. Rama was saying, 5 years is not enough. And if you don't make the right decisions and you don't communicate that, especially the communication and PR side of things, you can very well be fighting an uphill battle for the next 5 years, even though you have accomplished so much more. So all these things are critical. The people NATEX has to be, on the ball with their agenda and so on. Simple things like the EBC, for example. How are we going to do with that? A lot of things need restructuring and re-engineering for greater efficiency. And I just hope, and I think
I'm
it
sure we're
can
going to get to
happen.
that at some point. It's still too early to say. So, we have things to do before we even get to that part.
The time passes so fast, Gary.
Yeah,
Let's
I
assume
understand,
it.
but at these 3 months, we need to get set to take
Yeah,
us a good three
well,
months.
God forbid there's another set of flooding next week again. And, you're just occupied in doing things that you never expected. That is my point, We never expected, knew it will be flooding because they failed to clean the drain and so on, blah, blah, blah. But what happens, 1 month, 1 month, 2 months from now, you have to go and somebody has to be fighting to get the financing. And thank God we got some today. I read, or the CAF, that's the Caribbean and Latin American funding round. And it was good to see that we went towards education and road development. So that's good. So let's see how it goes.
If Dr. Ramrup doesn't have anything else to add, we will wrap up for the night and we'll catch up.
No, I mean the thing is that it's every day that I'm happy to see that we are making some strides in all in some of the ministries that we are seeing. Right now we're seeing trade, health, um, we're seeing local government, Ministry of Works, agriculture. We're seeing some faces. We're not seeing some of the other ones, I guess, because they have more administrative responsibilities at this point
Challenges
in
too.
time. Crime, of course, continues. I mean, we have murders, continuing, and home invasions, and I think there's a young boy is missing now. I see, I see Neela put it up today on the chat. So it's only 2.5 to 3 weeks now, and I mean I think, as I said, there's a certain amount of hope, and so far I'm just hoping that we don't have to spend, as Mr. Singh was saying, and Gary. I mean, we don't. We are seeing. Too early to say how things are going to go, but we are seeing a step in the right direction. We have government, world donor organizations probably identifying, that there is a change of government, and they could probably come aboard and help us in terms of funding, loans, disbursements, support, right? The American, I see the British High Commission paid a visit today, the High Commissioner to both ministers of national security. So I mean, yeah, things are happening. So let's see. I mean, I feel positive. Really, I feel good actually. I mean, yeah, the rain will come. I mean, as I said, I look at it through a different lens, as you guys probably understand by now. I see flooding as something that's going to happen no matter what we do. It's going to be the cleaning and everything is going to help a lot. I mean, I'm saying that, but it's not going to remove flooding. And if anybody out there feels that flooding is going to be totally eliminated, it's not going to happen. It just wouldn't happen. I've explained that why that will not happen. But at least if it happens, when it happens, what they are currently doing is making it a little better for persons to cope with the flooding, and that is what you really have to do.
Yes.
Making our communities resilient, because there are going to be instances where they're going to be flooding. If it doesn't happen in one area, it'll happen in areas that didn't never had flooding. It's just the way it is. It is what it is. So trying to get on top of the situation now is commendable, and I think that with the zeal that I've seen, and the drive from the Honorable Prime Minister, she's with flooding. I mean, the thing about it, I know her personally in terms of that, and she has a kind heart, so she wouldn't let that drop at all. right? And I think that that is something that we wouldn't have a problem with. We'll see a lot of the ministers working very hard out there. I just hope that in a few months' time, in the middle of the hurricane season, that when it begins to intensify, we want to work smart as well. One of the teachings of the global disaster risk reduction, science, or as it were, is that they recommend one of the recommendations of the Sendai strategy, um, which was signed in Japan, which was made up in Japan, and which was signed by all member states, most of them. I think our country is a signatory to that as well. That one of the teachings is that we must, whilst we're doing the response to flooding, whilst we're doing the rehabilitation of flooded victims and environments, whilst we're doing the actual cleaning and whatever, we must also implement structural and non-structural mitigation whilst we're doing it, so that you don't wait for it to happen 6 months down the line when you're settled, because you're never going to settle. That's the science. That's the evidence from hundreds of years of flooding. It's just how we have evolved as human beings in this planet. The planet is a live planet, it's not a dead planet. So, what will happen is that you will continue to have these hazards in one form or the other. And flooding has been with us from the dawn of civilizations, from the earliest human beings who lived in these caves. Flooding was then. It has it will continue, and it will be in this world for billions of years in the future. So it's just how we are able to adapt, how we are able to use our resources, how we are able to plan ahead, and how we are able to build the culture of resilience in our societies, and not just for flooding, for every single hazard that these people face. From man-made hazards as well. As you know, one of the biggest problem we have right now is crime. How crime is affecting our social fabric. It's causing problems in our communities. People are afraid to leave their homes. People have to block their houses with burglar proofing, and that's even an unsafe practice, because some people get burnt in these houses when they can't get the keys to come out. All of these things. People have to be afraid of their children going down the street in a parlor to buy something to come back, because people might kidnap them, and so everything is going to have to be revised as we go forward. You know.
Well, we have some infrastructural work to do, some major infrastructural work to do, right? But this again is the funding. We have done so many
Yeah.
studies. Now we
Yeah.
need to pull out all those studies and not redo studies. I mean, we basically probably know some of these issues, but
Yeah, we don't have to reinvent the wheel at all, at all, at all, at all.
no, no,
No
no.
way, no way. Just you are so correct. And right now the biggest problem we have is funding. So I see, I know that if we are optimizing our resources, and I see the Honorable Minister of Local Government doing just that, and that is what good leadership is all about. Trying to optimize your resources, because you have control of 14 municipalities in a sense. So the ability to have that, not operate in silos. There's no competition here, right? Things are happening, and I'm seeing that. So once we can sustain it,
I
maintain
mean,
it,
we saw how they just spelled it
good
out to
leadership.
them, right?
Yeah,
We saw how spelled them out to them. So
yeah,
I think we have the right person in the driver's seat and behind the wheel, and I want to
yeah.
see her get all the necessary resources
She has a lot
to
of
her
experience in that
disposal.
in
She
that
knows
in that
what to
in
be
that
done.
ministry. Yeah, good. So as you say, Gary, we'll
Yes,
support
as
them
long as
as
she
much
gets
as
those.
possible. Once they're willing to, hear from us a little bit, we will support
Well, we're
them. I mean,
presenting the
yeah,
ideas, right?
yeah. So we see.
Presenting the ideas, let them pick from what they want to pick from, right?
Yeah, correct. We can't force on anybody, and everybody have no. They are also hearing from their technocrats, and their experts. So the thing about it is that a lot of what we are saying is not new. It's probably what these people already know. You understand what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
because
It
of the
just
last 10 years where for whatever reason, certain communities were not treated properly or equitably.
But we need this level of
And we're now seeing
collaboration.
that. Yeah, we're now seeing. We are. I mean, I refuse to believe it. To be honest with you, in the early part of this 10 years, I just refused to believe it. I couldn't. I just kind of grew hard and said, okay, maybe it can't be so. Something has to be done different. And then when Barry took over and you see what is happening in public utilities and with the water supply and whatnot, and you begin to say, oh my God, is it true? Can that really be what is happening or what has happened? I don't believe that. I am appalled that there are so many technocrats who worked in these ministries, and if there was any evidence of people not getting water because of the way they voted by majority in that area, that would have affected them from getting a basic human need
Why
like
not?
water.
Out. Why, I mean, flood them out. I mean, it wouldn't look as though we deliberately doing something is natural disaster. That's directly disaster to them. That's all. What's wrong with that? Like I said before on the show, they would not support the fact that something is being done to enrich those who do not politically support them in the first place.
Yep.
Right? We know, we know, we know the level of discrimination our people face, right, over the years, right? Our grandparents and I mean, things, money, funding was given to certain people in certain places. We didn't get that help. Our family had to scrape their pennies. They had to plant the yard, they plant the garden. They had to work and do everything. Like I said, I always remember my mother mixing concrete like a man when the laborer didn't show up. So for PNM
Yep.
to come and tell me and my parents about property tax, they altered the damn mind. Okay, because I know how my parents catch their tail to get what they have. We didn't get no government funding. There was nothing free for my parents. All right. In fact, my father was heavily taxed during the days. All right, and they take all kind of tax. But I think he was on tax fairly too. He just didn't have the proper accountant assistance too, because to get the refund. But anyway, we know the level of discrimination what people went through, and they built themselves better than those who got the help, right? And at this point, I don't think that we should just sit back and let our people get exploited for their hard work. We have a prime minister who wants to put the necessary resources to help people build themselves. And if people can't see that, then God help us. I mean, I think they learn from their mistake. I hope that they learn from the last
Well,
time.
I would love to see firsthand. I would love to go back to the ODPM and see why it is that when I left in 2016, 2017, I would want to know why. What was the reason, right, for this whole policy change, and what is the reason why in the last few days in a new government that I am not seeing or hearing them at all. I just need to know what. I mean, maybe there's some valid bona fide reasons. Maybe they have been told not to speak. Maybe they don't have the data. Maybe they didn't get funding. I would love to just go back and
But
see
we
exactly
haven't
what it
heard
was.
anything about ODPM
Yeah.
for a while now, even before we took government.
I
The last time I hear about ODPM had to be at least 2017 or
Yeah,
so.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, even during the COVID, it was absent. I just don't know what happened. I mean, it's almost as though
George Young replaced the ODPM.
I think
He replaced the NOC too.
yes. I just don't know what is the. I mean, I would love to go. I would love to find out what's really going on there. To be honest with you. But anyway, we'll see how it goes.
All right, guys. So we'll catch up tomorrow night.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Right.
8
Take
o'clock
care.
tomorrow night. Thank you for
Take
listening.
care. All. Bye.
Tomorrow night. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
All right.